Hi, everybody. My name's Chanelli, and today I'll be introducing our topic of how the five senses work and interact with each other. Firstly, I'll be discussing and explaining the five senses, which are sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. These senses play a major role in how we perceive, learn, and respond to the world. Each sense is unique, and they constantly interact to shape our experiences, a concept studied extensively in cognitive neuroscience. Let's take a closer look at each one and see how they connect. First, we will discuss sight. Our ability to see begins when light hits the retina, a light-sensitive layer at the back of the eye. Here, the light is converted into electrical signals, which travel along the axon of the optic nerve to reach the brain. In the visual cortex, these signals are processed into images. Sight is integral for recognizing colors, shapes, and motion. These are key aspects of cognition. Sight is so powerful that it often interacts with other senses, like taste and hearing. This is why when you see something appetizing, like a lemon, you may automatically imagine its taste. This idea of automatic processing, where our brain processes stimuli without conscious effort, helps explain why vision often influences our expectations and multisensory experiences. Next, we will discuss hearing. Hearing occurs when sound waves enter our ears and cause tiny hairs in the cochlea to vibrate, generating signals sent to the auditory cortex. This process is influenced by implicit memory, our unconscious memory of sounds, and explicit memory, where we consciously recognize words, music, or familiar voices. For example, the melody of a favorite song might spark an emotional response, linking cognitive neuroscience and psychodynamic approaches to understanding memory and emotion. The sense of hearing also demonstrates generalization, where we recognize sounds similar to ones we've heard before. Our brain's ability to interpret variations in sounds plays a role in social identity, allowing us to detect familiar voices and communicate effectively. We will be moving on to touch. The sense of touch provides us with feedback on temperature, pressure, and texture. When our skin's receptors are stimulated, signals are sent through nerves to the somatosensory cortex. This is where we experience sensations like warmth, softness, or pain, which involves complex interactions within the biopsychosocial framework, combining biological, psychological, and social factors. Touch plays a big role in social cultural perspectives. For instance, a hug can be comforting and build connections between people. Touch also helps us understand operant conditioning as rewards and punishments. It can be physical, influencing how we learn behaviors. Moving on to taste. When we eat, our taste buds detect five main flavors: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. This sensation is transmitted to the brain, where it interacts closely with smell to create a richer perception of flavor. This is why food can taste bland when our sense of smell is blocked, like during a cold. Taste perception is linked to evolutionary psychology. Certain tastes, like bitterness, may signal toxins, while sweetness often indicates energy-rich food levels. These preferences may have evolved to aid survival. Classical conditioning also plays a role, where positive or negative associations with certain tastes can shape our food preferences. We will be moving on to smell. The sense of smell is connected to the olfactory bulb, where odor molecules trigger signals that are sent to the brain. The amygdala, an area responsible for processing emotions, is closely linked to smell. This connection explains why certain scents can trigger strong emotional memories, known as the flashbulb memory effect. Smell works closely with taste, combining to create our experience of flavors, and plays a significant role in behavior genetics. People may inherit a heightened sense of smell or insensitivity to certain odors, which can influence their habits, emotions, and even mate selection. These five senses don't work in isolation. They're constantly interacting in complex ways, known as multisensory integration. For example, visual cues can enhance our hearing in a noisy environment, a process that utilizes the frontal lobe for decision-making based on multiple sensory inputs. This integration is studied through technique like fMRI and PET scans, allowing researchers to see which brain areas activate when we process multiple sensory signals. Such integration allows us to interpret our surroundings accurately and form memories associated with certain experiences. For example, episodic memory may involve recalling a specific event with sensory details like the sound of laughter or the smell of food. In summary, our five senses are essential for navigating, interacting with, and understanding the world. They form the foundation of our perception and memory, shaping who we are and how we relate to others. By studying how these senses work and connect, we gain insights into the remarkable design of the human brain and body. Thank you.
My name is Mackenzie, and as Janelli has previously stated, our brains use something called sensory integration, also known as crosstalk. An example of this would be when we hear a loud noise and it catches our attention, so we start to look around for the source of it. Or during Christmas time when we're sharing a meal with our family, we use the senses such as sight, hearing, smell, taste, and just our feelings in general. They fuse together, creating one experience and one memory. How sensory integration works is our sensory signals go through our thalamus, then are routed to sense-specific areas in our cortex. From there, our cortical areas send signals to our brain's association areas, which in turn combines information from multiple senses. There's this neurological condition called synesthesia. Synesthesia happens when sense pathways cross each other, which in turn leads to experiencing multiple senses at once. A specific type of synesthesia is called chromesthesia. Chromesthesia happens when you see color when you hear sound. I recently watched a TED Talk, and the speaker talks about how each person's voice has a specific color to it. And when somebody's under a lot of stress or is really anxious or is becoming down with a cold, that their voice color changes ever so slightly, which she also talks about how with noticing that, she's able to become more understanding and more empathetic. She also mentions that she had a coworker who was about to have a panic attack, and she noticed this because her coworker's voice color changed ever so slightly. So she was able to help out her coworker, so her coworker didn't even end up having the panic attack. I'm going to show you a clip from the movie Ratatouille, so you are able to understand this neurological condition a little bit more.
Oh, Gusteau was right. Oh, yeah. Oh, amazing. Each flavor was totally unique. But combine one flavor with another, and something new was created.
As you saw in the scene, when Remy starts to eat the cheese and the strawberry, colors start to come on the screen and start to swirl around and create different shapes and colors. Synesthetes see very similar things, just depending on their type of synesthesia. Obviously, not everybody has synesthesia, but our senses do work together in our everyday lives. A German philosopher named Goethe writes about a connection between colors and mood. He talks about how reds and oranges are associated with warmth and stimulation, while blues and greens are associated with calm and coolness. A 2005 study shows that in combat sports, red is more likely to win, and red has an advantage. What they mean by this is that in nature, red has dominance compared to blue. In a 2011 study that talks about taste and emotion, they give a subject a bitter drink to sip on, and when asked what they thought about somebody, their judgment was very harsh and kind of brutal. But when they were giving that same subject a sweeter drink to sip on, and then asked them about their thoughts about that person, their judgment was a lot nicer and was a lot less harsh and brutal. As you can see with these past couple examples, that you can see that crosstalk is used in our everyday lives. Well, on that note, on to Christina.
Hi guys, I'm Christina. So as Mackenzie mentioned before, our senses do interact a lot with our everyday life, but they also interact a lot with our memories. An example of this would be our brains pulling information from memories in order to respond to a specific piece of sensory information that it encounters next. Like when we remember a specific place or scene, or just remember anything really, sensory processing areas in the brain, they do become activated. And different sensory inputs can also cause us to remember different things, like smelling a specific food or seeing a photo. It can bring back a different flood of memories that are attached to that. This can also be attached to sensation and perception, which those are both very similar terms, but they do have a different definition. Sensation is the process of detecting a specific stimuli. It's mainly caused by touching or feeling, but perception involves interpreting this and deciding how you feel about the specific sensation. Sensation is the initial stage where sensory receptors capture information, which is like light, sound, taste, smell, and touch from the environment around you. But perception takes this and organizes it, interprets, and gives meaning to it, which allows us to make our own opinions and understand the world around us. Our perception can be based off of what our different senses interpret. And it can vary depending on whether or not these senses are working together. An example of this would be like petting a cat. You can, and if it starts to purr, you can feel the cat, but you can also hear it purring. So you might be perceiving this cat to be kind, and also that it has respect for you and that it trusts you. But overall, the five senses do play a significant role in shaping our perception by providing cognitive input. They also process sensory information and influence how individuals interact with their surroundings. Our senses are kind of like gateways to the outside world. They constantly send signals to our brain for interpretation to see how we're going to feel about a specific thing. This processing also involves sensory inputs like touch, taste, smell, and sight. It allows us to build a better understanding and really just understand how we feel about specific things. Our brain is more of a central hub. It connects and helps us decide like a cohesive idea of what our reality will be. Depending on the multiple stimuli we encounter, it can range from like a gentle like caress to like a very loud noise. These can serve as different triggers for our sensory systems, which may affect our emotional responses and affect our overall experiences based off of our different personalities and whatnot. But one thing my group and I were thinking about while we were researching was which senses do we think interact the most together. So we wanted to ask everybody as a class which one did they think interact the most. But thank you guys.